There's a moment in every leader's life when everything they built begins to crumble. Not because the world turned against them, but because the foundation within them cracked. You can see it in their eyes. They're still giving speeches, still standing tall. But behind that calm composure, something ancient inside them is dying. And maybe, just maybe, that's where a different kind of birth begins. He was once the poster boy of India's tech revolution. They called him Vic, the man who built machines that could think. His startup, NeuroSync, was on every magazine cover, its AI systems predicting consumer needs before people even spoke them. Investors worshipped him. Students followed him. Politicians quoted him. And Vic believed he had finally decoded destiny itself. But success, you see, has a way of forgetting silence. It multiplies noise until you can't hear your own soul anymore. One night, during a global product launch in Singapore, as the world watched live, the system collapsed. Screens froze. Investors panicked. The AI began generating random sentences, nonsense strings, like a mad child learning to speak. And right there, in front of 1,000 flashing cameras, Vic realized he no longer knew what he had created. Or maybe it was his own mind that had crashed.
You know, Jessica, the Gita begins not when Arjuna raises his bow, but when he breaks down. The Mahabharata doesn't start on the battlefield outside. It begins in that moment when clarity collapses inside. And what happened to Vic was his own Kurukshetra.
He vanished the next day. No public statements, no farewell messages. Just disappeared. People said he had a breakdown. The media called it burnout. But what if it was something deeper? A death of the doer.
Yes, sometimes when the ego dies, the real life begins. And that's exactly where Krishna begins chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. When the first light breaks after confusion, when the seeker is no longer fighting the world but questioning the self, then Krishna starts to reveal something far greater than philosophy. He begins to reveal how consciousness takes birth.
So this isn't just a story about a fallen founder, is it? It's about that eternal rhythm, the cycle of falling and rising, of forgetting and remembering.
Krishna's words in these verses 5 to 9 of chapter 4, are not about mythology. They're about memory. The memory of the divine within us.
You mean when Krishna says, "Many births have passed for both you and me," he's not talking about physical reincarnation?
Not merely that. He's speaking about awareness itself. About that consciousness which remembers when all else forgets.
Then maybe Vic's disappearance wasn't the end of a company. It was the end of an illusion. And somewhere, maybe a new Vic was waiting to be born.
And that's where Krishna begins his divine revelation. The moment when he reminds Arjuna, and through Arjuna, every one of us, that the self never truly collapses, it just forgets itself.
So when life falls apart, it isn't punishment. It's the preparation for birth.
Yes, the preparation for Divya Yanma, the birth of conscious action. When action no longer arises from ambition or fear, but from remembrance. And that is where our story truly begins.
Friends, what you're about to hear is not just philosophy. It's a mirror. A mirror for every leader, every creator, every human being who's ever asked, why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? Why does the same confusion return again and again? Because perhaps the one who keeps acting isn't really you. It's the shadow that forgot where it came from.
And Krishna's voice, rising through Arjuna's silence, reminds us that the divine doesn't escape the world. It enters it again and again, not to rule, but to restore balance.
So maybe, when we fall apart, it isn't failure at all. It's Krishna preparing to be born within us, once more. Welcome, friends, to episode 42 of Beyond the Battlefield. Today, we explore the birth of conscious action, the mystery of why awareness keeps returning every time ignorance takes over, and how leadership itself can become a divine rebirth. Ankur, where do we begin?
Where every rebirth begins, in remembrance. Let's begin with verse 5.
They said Vic had vanished. No press, no posts, no calls. He just disappeared. But he hadn't. He was sitting in a wooden hut above Dharamkot, watching fog drift across the valley each morning, and for the first time in years, he wasn't building anything. He was simply being.
Collapse has a strange grace. It strips away everything that isn't essential, until only one question remains. Who am I when the story ends? That's exactly where Arjuna stands in chapter 4. A warrior who has won many battles yet is defeated by his own confusion. And Krishna begins to lift him with this verse.
Many births have passed for both you and me, Arjuna. I know them all, but you do not, O Parantapa.
This says Bhagwan Uvacha means Bhagwan, Ishwar spoke, the Lord spoke. He is not saying Krishna spoke because we are discounting the person Krishna. We are now listening to Bhagwan, Ishwar, the consciousness itself that speaks. And he says, this is not my first birth.
The verse opens like a whisper from beyond time, reminding us that divinity doesn't begin with a birth certificate.
Here Krishna draws a line between divine awareness and human forgetfulness. He remembers every birth because his consciousness never breaks. Arjuna forgets because his awareness keeps collapsing into identity. It's not a claim of superiority. It's a lesson about the mind. Memory of events belongs to the brain. Memory of being belongs to consciousness.
So when Krishna says, I remember, he means awareness itself remembers what it is.
When you stop being a role, founder, parent, friend, and just stay aware, you touch that same continuity Krishna speaks of. You realize you've never really been lost, only distracted.
Vic began to scribble on scraps of paper, not business plans, just questions. Who am I when I'm not leading? Why does silence feel truer than success? He wasn't writing for answers. He was learning to listen. And in that listening, something ancient stirred.
This moment is called the return of Smriti, remembrance. Not memory of past events, but awareness of presence. When the doer dies, the witness awakens.
So Vic's collapse was really a reset, a chance to remember what built him before he built anything.
Yes, the same way Arjuna had to forget his titles to remember his truth. The moment you say, I failed, life whispers, no, you've been found. When Krishna calls Arjuna Parantapa, subduer of enemies, he's reminding him, you've defeated armies. Now defeat this one enemy inside, doubt. And that's our battle today too. The outer wars are simpler. Deadlines, budgets, boardrooms. The inner one is the whisper that says, I'm not enough.
That was Vic's enemy too. He had conquered markets, but never his own mind. Now his only task was to remember who was really acting all along.
And that is the teaching of verse 5. Forgetfulness creates Arjuna. Remembrance creates Krishna. Every time you wake from the dream of I, a new birth of conscious action begins.
So the first step toward divine leadership isn't doing, it's remembering.
Because when you remember who you are, action itself becomes grace. And that leads us to the next mystery. How the divine takes birth without bondage. Let's move to verse 6.
You said something last time, Ankur, that the divine descends, it doesn't fall. That the presence we call God enters form by choice, not by force. That's what Krishna means next, isn't it?
Yes, Jessica. Now Krishna begins to explain how awareness takes birth. How eternity chooses to enter time. Listen to the verse carefully. It's one of the most beautiful in the Gita.
Though unborn and imperishable, though Lord of all beings, I manifest myself through my own nature, by my own Maya.
Here Krishna says, I am unborn, and yet I appear. I am imperishable, yet I take form. He's describing something profound. That manifestation doesn't mean limitation. When the ocean rises as a wave, the ocean doesn't cease being ocean. The form is temporary. The essence is eternal.
So the wave isn't separate, it's just ocean, playing as form.
Krishna's birth is not a karmic result. It's a creative act. He doesn't have to appear. He chooses to appear. He descends, not because he's bound, but because he's boundless enough to love.
After months of silence, Vic began to walk again, down the mountain trails he once climbed in despair. No followers, no boardroom, no investor calls. Just one idea. What if creation could be pure again? He didn't want to build a company anymore. He wanted to build conscious technology, systems that serve life, not exploit it. He realized he didn't need to return to the market. He needed to return to the world, consciously.
That's what Krishna calls Atma Maya Sambhavami. I manifest through my own inner power. Osho explains that the divine descends out of compassion, not compulsion. When a realized being acts, it is not a reaction. It's play, it's love, it's service. Vic wasn't coming back to prove himself. He was coming back to give. That is the difference between ambition and awareness.
So Krishna's birth, or Vic's return, is not a comeback story. It's rebirth as contribution.
Beautifully said. The ego acts to achieve awareness, acts to express. Krishna is saying, when I act, I don't do. I happen. I am the sky. I just appear through the clouds of time. Think of it like this. Your phone has an operating system. When it updates, the system restarts. The body is the hardware, prakriti, nature. But consciousness is the operating intelligence behind it. When awareness chooses to re-enter, that's an update, not a rebirth.
So God's reincarnation is like the universe refreshing itself with a new version.
Yes, consciousness 2.0. Except this update isn't fixing bugs, it's awakening potential. Krishna is telling Arjuna, I appear again and again to restore balance. Not because I have to, but because I can. Because compassion makes me act.
But isn't that the highest form of leadership too? To act not from pressure, but from purpose?
Modern leadership often acts like a reaction to deadlines, targets, or fear of loss. Divine leadership acts from alignment, from a place so centered that even chaos becomes choreography. Krishna is showing Arjuna and all of us how to act without getting caught.
When Vic re-entered the city, he didn't rebuild NeuroSync as it was. He created Sin Earth, a non-profit tech collective that built ethical algorithms for sustainability and education. He no longer spoke of disruption. He spoke of alignment. He said, "We used to build machines to predict behavior. Now we build them to amplify awareness." And somehow, the world listened.
That's Atma Maya Sambhavami real life. When you act from awareness, your work itself becomes divine. The doer disappears, but the impact multiplies.
So Krishna's message is, being born again doesn't mean entering a new body. It means awakening a new consciousness.
Yes, every time we act out of awareness instead of fear, Krishna takes birth within us. That's why he says, though unborn, I manifest. Because consciousness never stops creating. It simply chooses new forms to serve.
So even when the world breaks us, it's really preparing us for a more conscious creation.
And when awareness begins to act again, it's not for reward or recognition, it's to restore balance. That's where Krishna now takes us next, verses 7 and 8. When he declares why he descends to protect, to dissolve, to restore Dharma.
You said, Ankur, the divine doesn't just appear, it acts. But why? Why does Krishna need to step into the human mess at all?
Because consciousness doesn't stand aside. It can watch darkness grow only for so long before light moves. That movement, that return, is what Krishna calls the descent of Dharma.
Whenever righteousness declines, O Bharata, and unrighteousness rises, I manifest myself. To protect the righteous, to destroy the wicked, and to restore Dharma, I appear age after age.
These are among the most powerful lines ever spoken. But they are not a promise of divine intervention from the sky. They are a revelation of how awareness restores balance from within. Whenever we forget truth, life creates a moment that reminds us. Whenever imbalance, excess, blind ambition rises too high, consciousness responds from inside the system.
So the battlefield isn't just ancient Kurukshetra. It's our offices, our families, our own minds.
Every generation has its own Kurukshetra, its own moment when the world forgets why it was created. And every time that happens, awareness takes form again. Through a leader, a voice, a movement, or sometimes just through you, choosing clarity over chaos.
When Vic returned to the city, he saw what he had been blind to before. Companies chasing growth but losing grace. Everyone speaking of purpose but running on pressure. He said to his new team, "We built machines to think for us. Now we must teach them, and ourselves, how to feel again."
That's Krishna's message. He descends whenever compassion disappears from intelligence, whenever knowledge becomes cold and ambition loses its heart. Dharma means balance, the alignment of outer action with inner truth. When that balance tilts, life sends a correction signal. For Arjuna, that signal was Krishna. For Vic, it was collapse and awakening. For us today, it's conscience.
Krishna says he comes to protect the righteous and destroy the wicked. How do we see that today? There are no demons to slay.
They just wear new faces. The wicked today are not people. They are patterns, corruption, greed, fear, ego, apathy. And the righteous aren't saints in robes. They're anyone still fighting for truth in their sphere. Krishna's destruction is not of bodies, but of blindness. He burns ignorance to free awareness.
Vic used to see business as a race. Now he saw it as a responsibility. He stopped competing and started collaborating with nature, with people, with purpose. When his colleagues asked why he was back, he said, "Because every system I built without consciousness collapsed. Now it's time to rebuild with it." And that wasn't entrepreneurship. It was Dharma.
That's what this verse means today. God appears as the voice inside you that won't stay silent when something's wrong. That urge to act when you could look away, that is Krishna manifesting.
So the divine doesn't come down. It rises through us whenever we choose truth over comfort.
Yes, and that's why Krishna adds, Yuge Yuge, age after age. Because every era creates its own forgetfulness, and every time we remember, Krishna is born again.
It's comforting to know that whenever the world tilts too far into darkness, light doesn't have to travel from somewhere else. It awakens right here in the human heart.
That is the real avatar, not a supernatural event, but a super conscious response. So when Krishna says, I come age after age, he's not predicting a calendar of gods arriving. He's declaring that awareness will never let creation collapse. It will always rise where it's needed most. Through you, through me, through anyone ready to remember. And when that happens, ignorance dies quietly, without a war. That's the true destruction Krishna speaks of. Not killing life, but killing the lie.
So this is why he comes, to protect what's alive, to dissolve what's false, and to reestablish what's balanced.
Yes, and when you see it that way, you realize the war was never outside, it was always within.
So every time we restore balance in our work or our world, we become the channel of that same Krishna.
Yes, and that's the door to freedom. Because once you act through awareness alone, you no longer create karma, only clarity. And that is where Krishna leads Arjuna next. Verse 9, the freedom from rebirth itself.
So far, Krishna has said he remembers all births, he takes form through his own will, he descends whenever balance collapses. But now, he says something even deeper. He reveals what happens when we truly understand the divine nature of that birth.
One who truly knows the divine nature of my birth and my actions upon leaving the body is never born again, Arjuna. Such a one comes to me.
Krishna says, my birth and my action are divyam, divine. That word divyam changes everything. It means beyond duality. Not holy or supernatural, but free. When you understand that, you stop seeing action as a chain of cause and effect and start seeing it as the dance of the eternal.
So to know this divine action, does it mean to believe Krishna is God? Or to experience what he's pointing to?
It's not belief, its insight. To know Krishna's divine action means to realize that life itself acts through you. You are not the doer, you are the channel. When the river flows, it doesn't claim to be the ocean, yet it carries the ocean's water. In the same way, when your actions flow without ego, they become divyam, luminous, effortless.
So freedom doesn't come from stopping action. It comes from acting without bondage.
That's the secret of the Gita's Karma Yoga. Action continues, but attachment ends. The doer retires, the doing remains. It's like breathing. You don't need pride or guilt for it. It simply happens through you.
When Vic's new venture, Sinearth, began to grow, he felt no anxiety about outcomes anymore. He no longer chased investors. He attracted collaborators. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He was serving. His words to his team were simple. We're not here to win. We're here to contribute. And that shift changed everything.
That's the difference between human action and divine action. Human action is driven by result. Divine action is driven by realization. Krishna's birth into the world is like your purpose being born inside you. Not to conquer, but to contribute.
So when we understand that our own work can be divine, we also step out of the cycle of endless striving.
Yes, we're free the moment we see that success and failure are both waves in the same ocean. Once you act from awareness, not ambition, there's nothing left to win or lose, only to give.
And Krishna says, one who knows this never takes birth again. What does that mean today? No rebirth, no return.
It means the end of repetition. Not just physical rebirth, but the mental rebirth of old patterns. We keep taking birth every time we repeat the same unconscious loops: fear, greed, comparison, control. When awareness dawns, those loops dissolve. You still live, but you are no longer living reactively. You are born once, consciously, and that's enough.
So liberation isn't about leaving the world. It's about leaving the illusion that we were separate from it.
And that's what Krishna means when he says, Mam eti. He comes to me. It's not about reaching another place. It's about realizing that you were never away. When the wave remembers its ocean, where can it go? It was home all along.
Vic once said in an interview, "The old me wanted to build something that outlived me. The new me just wants to live while building." That's the sound of liberation. Not escape. Engagement without ego.
Yes, when you understand Krishna's divine action, you act fully in the world, yet the world cannot bind you. You do everything but remain untouched. You love without possession, work without pressure, lead without control. That's not spirituality, that's maturity.
It's like the fire that burns everything but never turns to ash.
That fire is awareness. When it burns through ignorance, you don't disappear, you shine. And that is the real victory Krishna offers Arjuna. Not escape from war, but freedom within it.
So maybe enlightenment isn't a thunderbolt. Maybe it's this: to act without ownership, to love without fear, to create without craving. And maybe when we learn to do that, Krishna smiles inside us. Because he's been born again.
Yes, every time awareness acts through you. Without ego, without reward, the divine takes another birth. And when that awareness becomes your natural state, the cycle of seeking ends. You don't renounce the world, you redeem it.
Vic's story showed that too. He didn't run from his collapse. He listened to it. And what was born from that listening was not a new company. It was a new consciousness. So friends, look around your own battlefield. Maybe it's a boardroom meeting, a home conversation, a project, a partnership. Wherever you feel imbalance, that's where Krishna is waiting to be born in you. When you choose clarity over confusion, compassion over competition, purpose over pressure, you become his voice. That is the meaning of Beyond the Battlefield, because the true war was never between people. It was between forgetfulness and awareness. And the moment awareness wins, you don't leave the field, you transform it. May you remember who acts through you. May your work become your worship, your success become service, and your decisions become dharmic, because every time a human acts from awareness, Krishna is born again, not in Mathura, not in Dwarka, but right here, in you. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Battlefield. This was episode 42, The Birth of Conscious Action. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone facing their own battlefield. You can explore companion insights, behind-the-scenes notes, and interactive reflections on our Beyond the Battlefield GPT link in the episode description. And we'd love to hear from you. Write to us anytime at beyondthebattlefield@outlook.in to share your thoughts, experiences, or questions for future episodes. Next time, we step into Chapter 4's next revelation, where Krishna introduces the science of selfless work and the bridge between knowledge and action. Until then, stay aware, stay compassionate, and keep acting from the center of your peace.